Good. So we're going to get going and dive into the information today on starting your listing the right way. Okay, so when you're creating a listing with Airbnb, here's the thing. They are constantly improving their website, okay? So they're also worth about $31 billion as of this date, and so that means they've got tons of money and resources to put behind constant improvement. So back in the day when you created a listing, I've been doing this since 2011, it was very simple. You just go in, fill in your basic information, address, number of rooms, number of guests, pictures, go live. Well, now, because I believe they have had a lot of questions, people calling in to customer support, how do I do this and what do I do now? So what they've done is when you start to create a listing, they are stepping you through it and giving you little helpful hints every step of the way to help you fill in the information accurately and correctly. So that's good, but at the same time, to some degree, that is making it a little more complicated because what Airbnb is doing now, when you create a listing, they have this preliminary information gathering phase. I call it running the gauntlet. You have to fill in this basic information first before you can go live with your listing. But here's the problem. Once they've gathered this initial information, you cannot proceed unless you publish your listing, which is what I refer to as going live. Now, at that point, because they've only gathered a portion of the information, you're going live with an incomplete listing, which is a travesty because when your listing goes live, that's when Airbnb promotes your listing to the most people, to the audience like it's never going to get that much exposure ever again. So we want to be ready. We want to be 100% ready to capture those eyes and those bookings, right? So the strategy here is you run the gauntlet. You give them whatever information you can just to get through these initial screens. You get through this phase, you publish, and then the next step you immediately go in and unpublish, unlist, so that now you can take your time to flesh out your listing, touch up the pictures, really put in a beautiful description, check off all the right amenities, put everything in place. Then you're ready to go live. So I want to show you the strategy for getting through the gauntlet, and then once you've got it to that phase where you unpublish it, that's a good stopping point because then you have time to go back and flesh it out the way it should be. So we're just going to get through the gauntlet today. And the other part of this is that as we go through and we're looking at each field that they're requesting the information, I'm going to give you some background information to help you understand what they're asking for and what goes in each of these fields. But don't worry about it too much because once you've gotten through the gauntlet, you can go in and go back into all these areas and change anything you need to or fix anything or add more later. So this part really doesn't matter. There's no pressure, okay? So I just wanted you guys to all understand that. So the very first thing is if you're going to create a new listing, I want to give you guys this link. So if you start a new listing from airbnb.com/r/SHOYUELA, that is going to give you a $50 bonus when you host your first guest on Airbnb. So that's a link that they let me offer to you guys, that if you were just to go in straight to Airbnb and create a listing, there would be no bonus otherwise. So I'm happy to give you guys that link to help get you started. And then here is the very first page. So let's say you come into Airbnb and you want to add a new listing. So you click up here on the right, you see the red box, add a new listing. You click on that, and this is the screen you're going to be seeing, okay? It says, "Hi, Sue, let's get started listing your space, step 1. Okay, so what kind of place do you have? You're going to enter the type of property it is, how many guests it can hold, and the city that the property is in, and click Continue, okay? Now on the next screen, you'll notice this is all part of step 1, and it says start with the basics, and there's 3 steps to get through before you can publish. So step 1, what kind of place are you listing? So in the first one, is this listing a home, hotel, or something else? Okay, so for the most part, you should be able to answer this for your property, whatever you're listing on Airbnb. What type of property is this? You'll select one from the drop-down. And what will guests have? And it used to say, what will guests have access to? So if it's an entire place, guests have the whole place to themselves, and this usually includes a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen. Now, if they have access to a private room, of course, the guests are going to have their own private room for sleeping, but the other parts of the house could be shared. And then if it's a shared room, that means that they're actually sharing a room with strangers. Guests are going to be sleeping in the bedroom or the common area that they're sleeping in, okay? So that's commonly referred to as a hostel type of situation, and a lot of folks are okay with that. So the next part is this set up as a dedicated guest space? So you're going to select the radio button, either yes, it's primarily set up for guests, or no, I keep my personal belongings here. So one of the things I recommend if you're setting up a space for guests, try and eliminate any evidence of any other, inhabitants that were there before them. And so, if that's your son's room and he's away for the summer, just take all of his personal items out of there, set it up for the summer as just a guest room so that you can say, yes, it's primarily set up for guests, because that's what people are really more comfortable with, and you want to make sure your guests feel comfortable, safe, and cared for, right? So if at all possible, say yes to this question. Okay, so I had a couple extra screens to show you what the drop-down menus look like. If you click on the top, is this listing a home, hotel, or something else? And then if you click on the what type of property is this, here's what the drop-down menu looks like. You get to choose at the top either an apartment, condominium, a guest house, a house, like an in-law, mother-in-law suite, something like that, a guest suite, a townhouse, or a vacation home. And then if you keep scrolling down, then you get into all the fun and creative choices. And if you do have something unique, I would definitely select what it is, because these are searchable fields. When a guest is looking for a really unique experience and they really want to find, let's say, they really want to stay on a boat. I did that for my husband for Father's Day. I wanted to have him stay on a boat just because it's a unique experience. So I searched specifically on boats, and it's really fun whatever comes up. You can search on private islands. You can search on cabins. You can search on tree houses. So that's a way to get more traffic to your listings if you can select the specific type of property that it is, if it's something unique. Okay. And then, of course, we've gone over the what will guests have access to, entire place, private room, shared room. Okay, so next, how many guests can your place accommodate? Okay, so if it's a private room, how many people can stay in that room? So this is the strategy. If you, let's say, are renting multiple rooms in a house, you're going to create a separate listing for each room. So if you're renting one room, let's say, and you're creating the listing for that room, that is what you're answering these questions for. Keep that in mind. So, let's say you're renting 3 separate rooms that can hold 2 people each. You're not going to say 6 people, because this listing is for just one room. So you're going to say, 2 people can sleep in this room, okay? So how many guests can your place accommodate based on whether it's a room or a whole house? You're going to select the number of guests. And then how many bedrooms can guests use? Drop down menu and select the proper number. How many beds can the guests use? Okay, so once you've filled in the number of beds, it's going to let you give it more information to describe the bed's layout more specifically, because you can imagine from a traveler standpoint, this is going to be very important. Maybe it's 2 co-workers traveling together on business. They're going to want their separate rooms or separate beds, so they really want to know what the bed situation is going to be like. So make sure you fill that in by scrolling down to the next screen, and this is where it's going to show you, when you click on that Add Beds drop-down, you're going to see more choices now. So it's got the different sizes of beds, and then you're just going to click the buttons for plus and minus until you have the correct number of beds. For instance, one of my properties it's the master suite. This room by itself is about 2,000 square feet. It's ridiculously huge. So in this room, there are 2 king beds, 2 queen beds, and a sofa bed. So you can show exactly what that bed and sleeping situation is in that room. Okay, so once you've done that for the bedroom, if there's like a common spaces or a living room, you can add beds there, but make sure that it accurately reflects the situation that the guests are going to have for sleeping. Okay, how many bathrooms? Okay, great. So now you get to say, this is how many bathrooms the guests have access to. So if they have a private bathroom in their room, you'll put one bathroom, and then is the bathroom private? You can say yes. Okay, so make sure that that's accurate. And then of course on the side you'll notice it says, if you have a toilet separate from the shower, count it as a half bathroom. Count only the bathrooms guests can use. So I understood a half bath is if it just has a toilet and a sink. And if it's a 3/4 bath, it's going to have a shower, a toilet, and a sink. And if it's a full bath, it's going to have a shower, a bathtub, a toilet, and a sink. Okay? So get as accurate as you can on the bathroom situation here. And then if it doesn't specifically address it here, you can always describe it more in your listing description later on. Okay? Okay, next. We're still on step 1. Where is your place located? Okay, so you're going to go ahead and put the exact address of the property here. So there are parts of the Airbnb listing that are what I call autoresponders. And this is one of the great automation features that they provide is when a guest books your place, they're going to automatically send them information to make their check-in easier. So when you enter your address here, this won't be shared with the general public, but it will be shared when someone books. So you don't have to worry about making sure they get the address and all that good stuff. It's automatically provided to them. So this is wonderful. It's one of those do it once and never have to worry about it again type of things. Okay, so you'll go ahead and fill in the information, street address, apartment, suite, building, any additional information, and zip code. Go to the next screen. Next, they're going to say, is the pin in the right place? Okay. A little strategy for you guys. So this will show the pin on the map where the property is located, and it does not show it to the general public when people are looking for a place to stay. It only shows it to confirmed guests. However, one of the strategies that I've seen people do is if their home is in like a HOA or a condo or an apartment and they don't want the HOA to know exactly where their property is located, they'll move this pin a block or two over. Because when Airbnb is showing the listing to the general public, they show a circle on the map. It's about a 5-block radius where your property is located, like a general idea. Because one of the biggest questions is people are always asking, how far are you from, wherever they want to go, the beach or Disneyland or whatever it is. So when they see the circle on the map, they get a general idea. So if you need to protect your property's location, you can move this over just a bit within a maybe 4 to 5 block radius, and it'll still do the job. So you have some flexibility there. Once you move it, then you can click looks good and go to the next screen, or leave it where it's at. Okay, what amenities do you offer? Okay, this is one of the big red flags because this is a very short list of all the amenities that you can really provide. So just check off the ones that you do have now, and you're definitely going to come back to this later when we're on the second phase of creating your listing description. Okay? What spaces can guests use? All right? So whatever they have access to, and be sure that you are setting the expectations correctly. Only check the boxes for the things that they really have access to. If they don't check the box, because what happens is if you promise something and it's not provided, the guest can ask for a full refund from Airbnb, and believe me, they will. So, if you say that you have a washing machine and it's out of order, I mean, even if it's, things beyond your control, that can still be something the guest can request a refund for. So be very careful to always update this. Maybe your washer dryer was great, but all of a sudden, it needed repairs. Uncheck that box and make sure that the current guests who are coming before you have it repaired know about that. It's very important to make sure that you're delivering what you promise, okay? So be careful on what you're checking as far as the amenities boxes go and what spaces they have access to as well. Okay, we've finished step 1. Now we're ready for step 2, called setting the scene, okay? So you're going to click on the continue button for step 2, and it's going to take you to the next screens. And I just wanted to show you, okay, up in the left-hand side it says show travelers what your space looks like. Now, because this is the preliminary phase, we're running the gauntlet, you don't have to upload all your pictures, but they do require you to upload a photo before you can move on. So maybe you haven't taken pictures of the place yet. It's okay. Put anything here right now, just for right now, okay? But if you do have your pictures, that's great. You can go ahead and upload them. So what I like to do is I click on that big red button that says Upload Photos. So your file manager pops up, and then you will navigate to wherever your pictures are on your computer. And what you can do is you can actually select just one or a whole series of them by simply clicking on the first picture, and then on the last picture you can select all of them by clicking on Shift left click, and that will select all the pictures between the beginning and the end. And you can upload them all at one fell swoop because you'll select Open. You'll just click on Open and they'll all upload at the same time. So that's a huge time saver. And then once they've uploaded, you can just go to the next screen. But in this case, if you don't have your pictures taken yet, just grab whatever you've got, upload at least one photo, because you can't get through the gauntlet unless you do upload a photo. Okay? Next. So I just uploaded any old photo right now, and it's put it in the cover photo banner at the top. Now keep in mind, this is the photo that's going to be the one that the guests see first. And so I call it either the eye candy or the money shot, because this is the one that's going to get people's attention. They're going to say, ooh, what's that? I want to stay there. You want to really stand out and be unique and exactly what your ideal guest is looking for when it comes to that cover photo shot. And that's going to be in the top spot. And you notice you can add a caption if you like, and I do suggest that you complete the captions on all the pictures, because a lot of people now don't want to bother reading the whole description. They just want to see the pictures and say, what am I looking at? So take the opportunity to really show them, or write in the caption what it is they get when they stay here, okay? And then, of course, if you want to add more pictures, you can click on Add Another to your heart's content. And then once you've gotten all the pictures uploaded, you can next go to the next screen. Now, this is, again, a shadow of what your actual listing description information is going to be about. Right now, they're just collecting the summary, okay, at the top. Edit your description. So in the summary box, you'll notice in the right-hand corner there's a number. It says 237. So they give you about, I want to say, 500 spaces to use. So this is prime real estate. You have the chance to grab their attention, and you're going to speak to your ideal guest, and the idea is to get them to click into your listing. That's where the fun begins. They can't book it unless they click in. So you want to get their attention with something snazzy, something that builds curiosity, something that adds value. So here's something that I put on my listings, just as an example. I put, "Your home away from home. We want you to have a crazy awesome vacation experience when you're in town. So we've come up with a great bonus for you. Heck, you don't even have to stay with us to enjoy it. You're just lucky you found this listing. Read on." So that makes them click into my listing to find out what the bonus was, right? So that helps get more click-throughs and more bookings, because I have an awesome bonus. We'll talk more about that later. Okay, so right now, again, this is just a field that you can change later as well, so you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. You could just type hello in this box and move on, okay? Then the next part down, my place is great for. I don't check these boxes only because it auto-populates into the summary box, and after a while you see the exact same wording from listing to listing, and you realize that the people just didn't put that much effort into typing their summary. And to me that just feels like, oh, you don't really want me to stay that bad. You didn't want to work that hard to type an interesting summary for me. I guess that's just me. So anyways, I just don't recommend checking these boxes right now. You can always add that information later or type it in your own words. I would suggest doing that. At the bottom, add more. Only 30% of hosts add more information here, so you can skip that if you want to. Okay? Let's move on. Next, name your place. Ooh, look at this. It's a 50-character limit on the name your place. So this is prime real estate. When you're naming your place, again, you don't have to flesh it out now perfectly, but just a few tips are when you're creating the name, keep in mind that this is searchable, and this is something that people are looking for when they're searching for a place to stay in your area. So you really want to put yourself in their shoes. And what happens here is that Yahoo and Bing and Google are going to actually be able to show people your listing based on the words you use in your listing title. So that means that people can find you even if they have never heard of Airbnb. So this isn't like Google AdWords where you pay for keyword searches, but just know that you're getting the power of that behind Airbnb. They give that to you for free. So use this name place very strategically. And in the course, there's a lot of suggestions for how to create the name and using keywords that people search on the most and the keywords that people will pay more for, right? So we've talked about people want a private bathroom, they want a private space, they want a private entrance, they want a view. So those are good words to use in there, as well as the main things that bring them into town. What are they coming for? Is it a convention? Is it a specific convention? You know, is it Comic-Con? Or is it Coachella, or a specific music festival or special event? You can use those words in the name, and you can change it whenever you like. So if you're near a convention center or something, you can change it up from month to month based on whatever the event is that month, and get new bookings and new traffic. So that is the listing title. So use that 50 spaces to your biggest benefit. Put in as many keywords as you can possibly squeeze in there that still make sense in the English language, because if you put, they say that when people are putting in searches, the more keywords you use in your search, the more money you'll make. And this is what I mean by that. Let's say you're looking for a car to rent. So you say rent a car. That's 3 words. But let's say this person wants to rent a Corvette. So now it's more specific, right? And let's say they don't just want to rent a Corvette. Maybe they want to rent a convertible Corvette. So now you have rent, convertible, Corvette. So that's 3 keywords. And the more specific you get, they say the more likely the person searching on those words has their hand on their wallet or their credit card, and they're ready to make a payment. So use at least 3 or 4 keywords that you know people are searching on to find your listing. And the more keywords you can use that match what they're looking for, the more likely you are to get the bookings. Okay? Okay, let's move on. Last step. All right, let's get ready for the guests. Okay, what else do we need to fill in? They're going to ask for, oh, and you can see in the little bottom here is kind of a little preview of what my listing's looking like so far. I called it the tiny house with ocean view in Malibu. And it's just a picture of my cabin. It's not real, but just for illustration purposes. Okay, so let's continue. Okay. I put a little warning for you guys. This is not what you're going to see on Airbnb. The little red box is not there, but I want to alert you that this is an instant book alert. Okay, so there's 2 ways the guests can book. Either instantly, where there's just a button and they click it and they book it without being approved. And then there's the other method where they need to ask you for permission to book it first. So Airbnb is really pushing the instant book feature. Okay, so you'll notice the way these questions sound. Review Airbnb's guest requirements. Why do we do that? Because with instant book, this is what Airbnb does. They require the guests provide their email address, a confirmed phone number, and their payment information. Okay, just want to let you know that they have to provide that anyways, even if you approve them first, okay? So that's not a big selling point. Let's move on. Before booking your home, each guest must agree to your house rules, message you about their trip, let you know how many guests are coming, and confirm their check-in in time if they're arriving within 2 days, which is also true if they're going to send you a request without instant booking. And if you don't allow instant book, you're giving yourself the chance to screen your guests. That's the main difference. So just saying that these quote-unquote benefits that they're giving you with instant book are still true even without instant book, okay? Now you can also add additional requirements, but the more barriers you put for the guests to book with you, the less likely they are to jump through the hurdles. For instance, I knew one gentleman that didn't want to rent out his apartment unless the guests showed him a copy of their return airline ticket, making sure that they were not going to become squatters, I guess. He wanted to make sure they had a reason to leave. But in order to get a copy of their airline ticket, that was a little prohibitive and a little invasive, and it made the guests very uncomfortable, and so they didn't comply with that. So then they weren't able to book his place. So you can add additional requirements, but it may cut down on the number of bookings you get. Okay? Okay, so just to go over the pros and cons. So let's say you want to do Instant Book. They say that if you do Instant Book, you'll get more bookings and make more money. Okay? I can't say whether that's true or not true. It depends on each person. And then with Instant Book, they say Airbnb backs you up if guests don't follow your house rules. Okay, so this comes to the question of cancellation. If a host cancels a booking. Okay, so if you're a host and you cancel a booking, usually Airbnb comes down very hard on you. There are many penalties. So they're saying here, if you allow Instant Book, they won't hold you to those penalties. Okay? But let's look at the cons real quick for Instant Book. First of all, you can't enforce your screening rules because for me, what I teach in the course, B&B Freedom Formula, is in order to avoid headaches, from my experience, I've learned we don't allow locals, people who live within 45 minutes of our house because they already live here. Why do they need to stay at my house? A lot of times people will book and they'll put in one guest, but then they'll actually have 5 or 10 people show up. Now, if you have that setting on your booking settings where you're going to add maybe $10 or $20 per guest after the first 1 or 2, you want to get paid for all the extra people, this will help you to lose money because they can quote-unquote lie. They can say we only have 1 person and 5 show up, and you're missing out on that additional revenue. And my other screening rule is I do not allow third-party bookings. That means, let's say a mother is booking for her son. So the mother makes the reservation, but she's not staying there. Her son stays. So because of Airbnb's review system, I'm only going to review the person who booked it, but that doesn't work if she doesn't stay. So that also means that the son has no reason to be on his best behavior because his reputation is not on the line. So with the Instant Book, you can't screen for third-party bookings. Anybody can book it for anybody else and they'll come and stay with you. And the other screening rule that I have is the house should not be the destination because that just is either going to be used for a party. We love your house. Great. How much parking is there around it? That's not a good question. That means they're going to have a rager and trash your house. Or it's going to be bombarded by a film crew looking for a budget filming location or something like that. So these are my screening rules that apply because of the environment that I'm in Los Angeles. These are my risk factors. So because of these risk factors, I'm not comfortable with leaving it open to Instant Book. And because of the way Instant Book promises that they will back you up if you need to cancel, what that tells me, okay, and this is just my soapbox, this is my risk tolerance. Each person has to answer this for themselves. But it puts you in a reactive position. That means the guests have already broken my rules. They're already in my house. And now I have this problem to deal with. So I can tell Airbnb, hey, they brought too many people. Hey, they had a party. They didn't follow my house rules. But I'm already in the situation, and now I have to react. So I prefer to be in the proactive, problem-preventing position by simply screening my guests up front. And some of my students can testify. I don't know if you guys are on the call right now, but we've had a few folks who have had the Instant Book situation where the guests booked it and did not follow their house rules. And so the host, being in the right, cancels the booking and kicks the people out. But then Airbnb dinged them and held them responsible as a bad host who canceled the reservation. And so now they're, again, in a reactive problem-solving situation where they're calling up Airbnb, pleading their case, helping them understand that they were in the right, the guest instant booked, the guest didn't follow the house rules, and then Airbnb reverses it for them. So that's a long, drawn-out process, and your reputation is on the line in the meantime. Plus, Airbnb will block your calendar for those dates that you cancel so no one else can book them, so you're out that money. And so it just is a lot more work to battle the instant book for me. So anyways, thank you for listening to my my soapbox on instant book, and I just want you to take that into consideration. But I do have students who leave it on, they get more bookings, and hopefully more money in the long run. But I guess my concern is sometimes the problems that ensue aren't worth any amount of money. You know what I mean? That could be the case. So it's kind of a risky situation, and so I just wanted to give you that information, be armed with to make good decisions going forward. Okay, now we're getting ready for the guests, and we're going to set the house rules, okay? So you're going to go down here and you're going to click yes or no if it's suitable for children 2 to 12 years old. And that just means, you know, do you have like covers on the outlets and things so that, you know, a toddler will be safe? Do you have little gates on the stairs to make sure that they don't fall? Things like that. Is it suitable for infants under 2 years old? You could say yes or no. Suitable for pets? Yes or no. Is smoking allowed? Yes or no. And events or parties allowed? Yes or no. Okay, you can also add additional rules here, you know, if there's quiet hours, no shoes in the house, whatever you like. Again, you can always edit this later. And we're going to scroll down, keep going down this page after you fill those in. Now you get to add details that the guests must know about your home. So these are what I would call detractors. So hopefully you don't have these situations on your house, but if you do, you must check these boxes, because these are the things that you can get dinged for on the reviews by the guests later on if you don't disclose them up front. So be sure you go down this list and make sure you do check any of these boxes that apply. So if the guest must climb stairs, make sure they know that. Potential for noise. Pets live on the property. They need to know that. If there's no parking on the property, make sure they know. Some spaces are shared. You know, if that's going to be a private room in a shared house, check the box. Amenity limitations. One of my houses I manage for the owner, the landlord, and it's a high-end mansion, 3,000 square foot, 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, gorgeous, super high-end, and the dishwasher does not work. He does not want to fix it. So a lot of folks who stay in a really high-end place, they would really like the dishwasher to work. You know, they don't like, here's their sponge, you know, get to it. So unfortunately, you know, I have to say the dishwasher does not work on the amenity limitations, and clarify that before they book, because, you know, that's something they need to know. So up front, okay? Surveillance or recording devices on the property. Make sure you don't have those inside, just, you know, maybe outside by the front door, but, you know, be very discreet with that type of stuff. You can get into a lot of trouble. I generally don't recommend putting surveillance or recording devices on the property in general. Make sure they know if there's weapons on the property and dangerous animals. Okay, next. Okay, now we're almost there. This is kind of a summary. Congratulations, you've made it through all 3 steps. You've qualified guests. Qualified guests can find your listing. You set controls for who can book. Note that number 2 means you have instant book turned on. Number 3, once a guest books, you get notified. Okay, so they're telling you right here, in very unclear terms, that you have agreed to allow guests to instant book. Now, if you don't want that, see this little red box that says, I want to review every request? You can turn off instant book here, but check it out. They get a little pushy. They want you to leave it on, and so guess what happens if you click on the I want to review every request and try to turn off instant book? Check this out, next screen. You click on that and it takes you here. And they say, before you make the switch, hold on. We just want to remind you all the benefits that come along with instant book. Increased earnings, search boost, okay, more control, and the ultimate host protection, which comes with any booking in general, not just Instant Book. Okay. So now you can click at the bottom to allow instant bookings, right? You can go back and say, okay, I'll do it. Or you can say next and continue on with turning it off. Now here's what you get if you continue to next. And it says, are you sure you want all guests to send requests? Check the boxes to confirm that you understand. Now you have to check all 3 of these boxes or you cannot pass to the next screen. So it says you'll only have 24 hours to respond to requests without penalty. Okay guys, remember, with the B&B Freedom Formula, we're all about automation and quick responses. You've got the Airbnb app on the phone in your pocket. You've got notifications turned on. The minute a request comes through, that phone makes that beautiful bling sound that I call the money sound. And you can respond to that inquiry in less than a minute, especially when you've got the templates loaded in your messages to respond to the pre-approval and the most commonly asked questions. Less than a minute. So that you only have 24 hours to respond is not really that big of a selling point. You know what I mean? Okay. And then it says your listing will be ranked lower in search, so you may get fewer reservations. Okay, well, if you want to come up higher in the search, that is one way to do it. There's also a feature where guests can choose to only see listings that have Instant Book turned on. So that could be a benefit to bring your listings up higher in searches. I'll give them that. Okay, and then it says you'll lose some host protection and controls, including penalty-free cancellations, which I've discussed what their penalty-free cancellation looks like, which is a reactive where they penalize you first and then you have to get them to overturn it. So just saying, that's a questionable benefit. And then, again, you can have a second chance or third chance now. At the bottom, it has the blue link, allow qualified guests to book instantly. You can still turn back. But if you want to forge forward, you're going to check all 3 boxes. And now you're going to click on the next button. We're going to keep trying to turn it off. And you've succeeded. Now you can see on number 2, it says, now the guests send you a reservation request. Okay, that's the position where now you can screen your guests and make sure that they're complying with all of your house rules before you accept the reservation. Okay. And again, you can go back if you want. There's another chance right there with the red box. Okay. So let's say you want to turn it off for now. Just for Sue's peace of mind. Thank you very much. Now you can click on the next button. And you're not done yet. You're still on step 3. Next, let's set up your calendar. Okay, so in the first box, it says, have you rented out your place before? Select 1. So you're either going to select, I'm new to this, or I have. Basically, click on I have, because if you click on I'm new to this, it's going to drag out this process even longer. And we just want to get through it, right? So click on I have. And then the next box down, you click the drop-down menu and it says, how often do you want to have guests? Not sure yet, part-time, as often as possible. If you click on not sure yet, it's going to block your entire calendar, and then we're going to go in and unblock the dates that you want to have open later on. Or if you say as often as possible, it will leave your entire calendar unblocked. And then if you select part-time, it gives you choices for how far into the future do you want to open up dates, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or more. So I would just go ahead with either not sure yet and have it all blocked, especially if you're doing a timeshare, or as often as possible if you just want to leave your calendar wide open. It's up to you. But you can change this later on again. So these questions don't really matter that much. Okay, so let's move on. Now, how much notice do you need before a guest arrives? When you click on that drop-down menu under 1 day, you also have other choices such as 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, and more. So you're going to be able to set that notice depending on maybe your cleaning people, how long they need to get the place ready before a guest can arrive, or it could just be the same day. If it's already ready, guests can move in the same day, just leave it at same day. Okay? Next, when can guests check in? Let's click on that blue link, and next, when you click on that, you'll see the from, so this is the check-in period. You'll notice, I mean, most hotels, they'll say anywhere from 4 p.m. on, 3 p.m. on. So the starting from is whatever time you feel is a good enough break, and you have to think in terms of check out. Let's say you have guests that checked out at noon. how long is it going to take for the cleaners to get it ready before the next guest can check in? So this is your cleaning window. So I usually make it from 12 to 4, but you can set that accordingly, whatever works for you. You can even add a day on either side of a booking if you like, if your cleaners need extra time to get it ready. But I like to not miss out on revenue, and I like to be able to book check-ins and check-outs on the same day. We call them chichos, just to keep the revenue coming in. So I select checkout 12 noon, check-in anywhere from 3 or 4 p.m. Now, the flexible, okay, when guests check in, they can start from any time in the afternoon until. What this means now, if you set a time in this second field under 2, that means there's a check-in cutoff. Okay, this is really important. I want to explain this. So one of the things that Airbnb wants you to do as a host is have 24-hour check-in available to your guests, no limits. And in my course, of course, I'm teaching you how to automate that with the keyless entry system and the check-in instructions that are automatically loaded into your Airbnb app with pictures and detailed instructions. So this is freeing you up from having to greet the guests. When you do that, when you implement that, now you have unlimited check-in windows. So if you do, then you can leave this at flexible. There is no cutoff, okay? So you really want to be able to offer that. But if you don't, then you're going to go ahead and select the time that you want to cut off. So if the guests don't arrive before, let's say you set it at 10 p.m., then they're going to have to wait till the next day if they didn't make it by 10 p.m. Sorry, right? So you can set that check-in window to whatever works for you. Okay, next. Now, how far in advance can guests book? Okay, so here's the part-time where you can set it to either 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or a year. And again, you can change this later, so it's not critical that you set it accurately now. And then, of course, you saw me earlier at the beginning. I was showing you how to select specific dates. And so, let's say you only want to have 1 month into the future open. You can always go back in later and block out those 2 additional months so that you only have 1 month open. You have complete control of the calendar. And then how long can guests stay? Okay, so for guest stays, I generally set it at a 2-night minimum just because when it's a 1-night minimum, I get an entirely different type of guest, and 99% of the time it's a really uncomfortable situation. So that's just my gut feeling. 1-night stays are kind of strange. So when we've gone with 2 nights and more, it's a lot more comfortable. And for the maximum, let's see, there's a few things to consider. So in California, we have tenant law that favors the tenant that if they stay more than 30 days, they become a tenant, and if they for some reason decide not to leave, you can't just evict them. You have to go through the eviction process through the courts, and the sheriff's involved, and it's expensive and time consuming, and they can milk it and stretch it out for 6 months to a year sometimes, so you're out that income. So in order to avoid eviction situations in California and other states that have that same tenant law of anybody staying over 30 days or more is considered a tenant, I would limit the stay on the maximum nights to, let's say, 28 nights, just to give yourself a cushion. So what happens, let's say, 28 nights is the end of their stay and they're still here on the 29th day. Well, now it's a trespassing situation. And all you got to do is call the sheriff or a local security company, and they can come and escort the folks out for you. And so that could be done very quickly, and you don't have as, the expenses and the time consuming and all the headaches and all that. So trespassing is a whole lot easier to deal with, which actually I've never had to. There's a lot of things you can do if people aren't moving out that I would do before you get to the, calling in backup, that it works very effectively, but we'll go into that later. So then on the maximum nights, just from my personal experience, we've had folks stay 21 nights, 3 weeks. And, it's something funny about human nature, it seems like. They come in very, very considerate and respectful, and should I take off my shoes, and cleaning up after themselves. But as time goes on, that tends to wear off a little bit, and they get a little too comfortable, I say. After a while, the bloom is off the rose. So if they stay too long, it gets really uncomfortable for folks, especially if it's a shared situation where they're, living in the same house with you. So that's where we've come to say 21 nights is our maximum, just for our own comfort's sake. But of course, if it's a whole private house, like a guest house or something, and you never have to see them, then, you can set it at 28 nights or whatever you're comfortable with. And then, of course, if you're in states that don't have tenant law, some states just say if you don't have a signed lease of some sort, then you're out. And so that means basically if they've booked through Airbnb and their contract ends on this day at this time and they don't leave, then you can just evict them, no problem. Then you don't have a restriction on how long the guest can stay, so that's up to you. So I hope that gives you some food for thought in deciding how many maximum nights to select, and it's just going to depend on your situation wherever you are in this world, okay? And also the tip says shorter trips can mean more reservations, but you might have to turn over your space more often. Let me just say on that note, when I've done Airbnb, I've discovered that high turnover is a really good thing, because what we're doing also is when it comes to the cleaning fee, we're collecting a higher amount from the guest than we're paying our cleaners. So that creates a little extra revenue. And believe me, throughout a year's time, that adds up to like $10,000 or more. Just that little extra from every time it turns over. So in that sense, that's another reason I really love high turnover and shorter stays. So in LA, we're in a fortunate position where the average stay goes to 3 to 5 nights. That's about it. And then they're on to the next place. So that gives us a lot of turnover. And that's our sweet spot, especially here in Los Angeles. But it'll vary for wherever you are and what it is that brings people into town. Okay, so just wanted to share that with you. Let's move on. Okay, how do you want to set your price? Okay, the first one says price adapts to demand. And it says you tell smart pricing to automatically adjust your price to match demand, but only within a price range that you set. Recommended. Okay, or you can choose price is fixed. That means you set a base price, and then Airbnb gives you price tips that you can either accept or ignore. So I just wanted to share with you my experience, my 2 cents on which one to go with. Airbnb has their smart pricing, and everyone I've seen that's ever used it has gotten really lowballed. It shows you what the competition is doing, or it says, it'll pop up a cute little message to the right of your calendar. People have told me this. Oh, Airbnb says that 7 people looked at my listing, but none of them booked with me, but they booked something that was $5 a night less. So what does that imply? Oh, you should lower your rates, right? It's implying that if you lower your rates, you'll get more bookings. But what I found is there's a sweet spot. If you go below $40 a night, you get an entirely different type of guest that's not very comfortable. So for me, I will not go below $40 a night. Okay, so for smart pricing, it does allow you to set the minimum that you're willing to accept, okay? So you could do that. But with smart pricing, a lot of times they're not aware of what's going on in your neighborhood. Even though they have a lot of information they can draw from, I mean, they've got big data that they're using to set this pricing. But still, when you're local, you know much more than Airbnb will ever know about what's going on. For example, I think I've mentioned before when we had a booking out in Coachella, a house right next to the music festival. It was a whole house for 10 people, and they recommended $250 a night. That was the smart pricing suggestion. But we actually booked it for $1,750 a night because that was the music festival going on. So imagine if we'd given it away for $250 a night. You think, wow, that sounds good. But in reality, boy, we would have really undersold ourselves, right? So I personally don't use smart pricing. I set my prices throughout the year, and you'll go through this in Module 5, setting the nightly rate, in determining what your nightly rate should be throughout the year based on the seasonal fluctuations, summer and winter and whatever the high seasons are. And then you're going to also identify special events and really bump your prices up for those. And you're going to set the calendar a year in advance, okay? So you're already ready for people who are last minute, and you're already ready for people who are planners. You're not going to short sell the property. You're still going to maximize your income. So those are the strategies I teach in the course. So I would suggest selecting price is fixed, and then going through the exercises and the worksheets, determining what the pricing should be in your area, and setting up your calendar a whole year in advance. And then, you know what I do? When I get a lot of bookings too quickly, it tells me I'm selling it too short. I'm selling it too cheap. So you can always go in and adjust the prices accordingly throughout the year. You have complete control of your calendar. So you can go ahead and do that as well. So I would select prices fixed, and then move on. Okay, price your space. Now you're going to set the base price for each night. Just be aware that whatever you fill in this box, base price, this is the number that Airbnb is going to populate across your entire calendar for every single night, and it's going to show up on the listing that is shown to people when they're searching for a place to stay. So what that means is, let's say you put in here $250 a night, but let's say the actual price is set a little bit lower than that because it's a slower season, and your actual nightly rate is $120 a night. But what happens now, the guests are searching and they just see $250 a night and they go, oh, it's too expensive, forget it. So you want to have the lower base price show up here and then have it higher everywhere else, okay? And then, yes, you are going to get the question a lot. The guests are going to say, hey, the price changed, right? And my response is, you are getting the best seasonally adjusted price available. So that's the answer I give people when they say, hey, you know what, I went in to book it at 120, but it's 250 a night. It's easier to explain that than explain why it dropped. Does that make sense? So anyways, we go into that again in the course, and you'll get more explanation on that when you're determining what your base price should be. So put it at the lowest price you have throughout the year, and then any other bumps, you're going to go in and manually adjust them up later on. Okay, and then select your currency. And you can also set up smart pricing if you like. But right now, we're just going to set the fixed rate for across the board. Okay, and go to the next screen. Okay, length of stay prices. Okay, here's another soapbox for me. All of this right here is encouraging you to give the guests discounts for staying longer. Okay, so first of all, why are we doing Airbnb? We're here to maximize our income, right? Because the power of Airbnb by renting by the night means that we can double or triple our rental income. If we wanted to keep ourselves at the lowest income possible, we would just do long-term rentals and leave it at that. But we're here on Airbnb because we want to maximize our income. So personally, I don't see any real incentive to give a discount. Or is that just me? Anyways, so I get a bit of an attitude when it comes to this discount and encouraging people to stay longer because, as I was mentioning earlier, high turnover is a good thing. So the shorter the stay, the more money we make. So I really don't want to encourage them to stay longer, right? Okay, so for me, I skip this screen altogether. I leave it at 0, okay? But you can put in anything you like here. Of course, it's up to you. Okay, next, the last screen says your local laws and taxes. Okay, make sure you familiarize yourself with your local laws as well as Airbnb's non-discrimination policy. So, of course, if you want to find what your local laws, you can search on Google under, zoning, building licenses, tax codes, municipal codes. That's another keyword. I've been able to find a lot of information from city to city. It varies. It bounces around, so you're going to need to do some research and dig. And then make sure you're compliant if they require a permit or a license or nothing at all. A lot of cities have nothing in place. So you do need to do your due diligence. And when it comes to Airbnb's non-discrimination policy, I know in California we have fair housing that says, you should not discriminate against, and they call them the protected classes, age and ethnicity and religion and a bunch of different things. So you have to make sure that you're not discriminating against guests when they're asking to stay. Again, when you use my screening rules, they are compliant with those guidelines. They're not discriminating against any protected classes. So you're okay to use my screening rules, but also be aware that Airbnb is monitoring that very closely. So if a guest feels that they've been discriminated against, they can report it to Airbnb, and then you have to be, it's like a little case study. They go in and they ask both parties, and then they decide. So one of the things that I'll do if somebody doesn't pass my screening rules, I will only respond by saying, I'm sorry, we're unable to accommodate you. Period, end of sentence. No more information than that, so that they don't have any reason to say, hey, she's discriminating against me. And if the people come back and say, well, can I know why? There's no response. That's just the end of it right there. Okay, so you don't run into hot water with Airbnb's non-discrimination policy. Just wanted to protect you with that one. Okay, so next, look at the little button at the bottom. You can click on Finish. Hooray! Okay, so we are almost done running the gauntlet. Congratulations. Now what's next? Click on Finish, and it says you're ready to publish. Okay, so this is the scary part, because the minute you click on Publish Listing, now the whole world can see your listing and request to book. Another reason you don't want to have Instant Book turned on right now, because believe me, you can get a booking in the next, okay, my record is 7 seconds. From the time my listing went live, I had my first booking in 7 seconds. So you don't want to have Instant Book turned on, because if you're not ready and your dates aren't available, you're going to have to cancel that reservation. Okay, so that's one of the reasons we went through the exercise, to turn it off before we click on Publish Listing. So now this is where I try and go as fast as possible, because once you click on Publish Listing, now you have to navigate through Airbnb back to this listing and unlist it really quickly, okay? So here's what we're going to do. Ready, go. Click on Publish Listing. Bang. This is the page it brings you to. Your listing is published. Great job finishing up. Before we take you to your listing, we wanted to know, would you like help hosting your space? Okay, this is off the subject. We're not going to worry about a co-host right now. We'll come back to that, okay? So go all the way to the bottom and click on Skip for Now. Next, it takes you to your dashboard. Again, if you look at your dashboard, your listing is not here. Where is it? Okay, you've got to go up to the top. See the box where it says Listings? You've got to click on that. Next, it's going to be at the very top, hopefully, of your listings. Now you click on the name of it in order to get to the editing portion. Okay, so click on the name of the listing. We're still trying to turn it off. As soon as you click on that, congratulations! You've reached your goal almost, okay? We still have to scroll down. But before we do, I just wanted to show you, this is what the original listing editing window looked like before they added the gauntlet. This is where it happens on a daily basis. This is what it will look like when you come in to make any changes, okay? So this is where you will live going forward. You'll only have to run the gauntlet whenever you create a new listing, okay? So this is what you're going to become very familiar with, and we're going to be going into more detail the next time when we really flesh out the listing, but we don't have all that much time for today. Just wanted to get you through this first phase. So you'll see your listing, and then you're still trying to find that little button to unlist it, right? Okay, where is it? Scroll down. You'll scroll down. You'll see rooms and guests. You'll see amenities. Keep going. All the way to the bottom. Location, guest resources, guidebook, listing status. There it is. And that little green button says listed. That means you're live. That means they're showing your listing, and it's getting prime spots right now being shown to the masses. But it's not done. So go ahead and click on Edit. Once you do, it's going to bring you into this window, Listing Status. You'll click the drop-down menu, go down to the third choice, and click Unlisted. Okay, once you do, you can click on that Save button at the bottom. But wait, they're going to stall you a little longer. They want to know why you're unlisting your space. Don't worry, just go to all the way to the bottom and click on the I have other reasons button, because Sue told me button, okay? Then click Next. And now they want to stall you a little more. We'd love to know why. You can't pass unless you type something in this box. Type something. And then click Unlist, okay? Once you do, Congratulations. Now the listing status is unlisted. There's a little red button next to it, and you can relax. You can breathe a sigh of relief because now you can update your listing at your leisure. Okay? Congratulations. You've made it to the end of the gauntlet. Woohoo! So this is the new Airbnb, and I know they're doing it to give you more information to help you understand what goes in that box, and fill it out correctly. But I just wanted to make sure you understood what was going on behind the scenes when you're answering all these questions, right? Because that's part of the thing when you're learning a new technology website. It's asking you questions, but you don't know the if this, then what. So I want to give you those insights behind the scenes to know that's what this means so that you'll be able to use this tool for your benefit. So when you create an Airbnb listing, they have so many tools available to you, and it's a matter of knowing what each one does and then using that to get more bookings, make more money, automate your business, outsource, streamline. So we're going to go into that on the next class and be able to talk about how we're going to put all of those bells and whistles to work for you, okay?